keen to hear about, which is outlooking the future or the future of content creation. Let's go on a modular adventure. So let's go to the adventure. Oksana, Dennis, the stage is all yours.
Yeah, thanks,
you, Daria.
Daria. Thank you, Daria. And it's gonna be a true adventure to complete the journey from non-modular to modular content. So let us first introduce ourselves. So my name is Oksana. I'm now head of growth for the Americas region, based out of Bridgewater, New Jersey. And today my partner in crime is Dennis, who is our lead product manager.
Yeah, and part of my responsibility is actually developing our Visor platform, which is our flagship product. So I closely work with the customer together with our technical teams in order to make things happen and in order to those things to match the needs that we have from our customers. Nice meeting you guys.
Awesome. Let's go ahead. So a little bit like of a sneak peek of what we're gonna cover today. So we're gonna talk about like standardization in general and why this is important. We will touch the topic of tagging, DAM system as a part of that, and then the whole global and also local content creation journey. So we have a couple of steps for you to go along the modular content journey that we will also cover today. And as a first slide, and we don't want to scare you off with that, but there can be some points along the way that we should be watching out for at any moment before we start, so that we all have same expectations of the journey to modular content, omni-channel, and the personalization at scale, like in general. So we have to have the clear understanding of how our content needs to change. And this would mean like changing the way how we create it, how we assemble it, how we localize it, and like even sometimes the general look and feel of our content. Secondly, I would say we cannot just have some new tools and just expect just the technology itself to help us in personalization if nothing in the content creation, in the data has changed. And also some mistake that we saw just in our some of our engagements is that again, just throwing that old content into new tech and into new tools and expecting that something would magically change is also not a solution. So as an outcome, and today we're going to highlight the way to that, like, to be successful in personalization at scale, we'll be rethinking how the content is created, like totally. And as we start, some of the most common issues that we face is, how to organize content, how to find the content, and especially in those huge amount of data and assets that's available. So we not only see that even having the approved components library in the DAM, some of the users just struggle to find the proper image or graphics to reuse. Same is for the global content. How to find whatever fits you best, how to preview it better, and how to organize it well so that it's available for the reuse. And also some of the insights on the content. So Anastasia and Cecilia just touched on the importance of data. And here, just as Anastasia said just a second ago, was like it's actionable insights on the data. While collecting info, what do we do afterwards, and what actions it hints us to take as a next step? We talked about standardization, and also as a way to personalize. Sometimes we hear that, well, standardizing is a trouble. It's gonna limit the creativity and comments like that. But let's look at standardization as a way to personalizing the content at scale. Because what the standards would actually bring is it will help the client find the relevant information at the proper time and exactly when they need it and through the channel that they need it. To be able to personalize is to review also like at global and local level how we create, manage, and also retire the content. To be able to do so, we're going to be looking at the change between creating our, as we call it, like long form, complete content that we had to code, and switch to moving into those smaller, reusable chunks of content, or as we call them, modules. And then after it is done, how that is combined together in hundreds and hundreds of combinations, just to be able to personalize fast, but due to the standard. And what exactly we can standardize? So we've identified 4 main areas of standardization. So first of that, of course, is content. And by content, I mean like the general look and feel, the templates, some standard functionality that would drive the recognition and also like better adoption of the content throughout internal and external users. Also the agency briefing, and especially how we deliver the tasks to our agency partners. Is it easy for them to understand and follow that standard, or they have to do everything like from scratch again? Technology is related to that in a multiple way, especially as a kind of a unified umbrella to unite all of the vendors so that they can share the same base. And data and tracking. And I feel that data and tracking, this is something that goes along the way throughout multiple presentations that you heard today. So how we tag content, and then how we track the content, and what actions we can take from that information. So now let's go along those steps that would lead you through standardization to that way of dynamic content creation and tracking. So here, Dennis, would you mind commenting that?
Yeah, let me explain a little bit. So what you're looking at right now is sort of the framework that we have internally in order to implement the modular projects for the customers that we are currently working with. And right now, as we speak, we kind of run through like about a dozen of different projects with different customers. All of them are on different stages. However, all of them are going through this framework. And frankly speaking, this is a relatively really simplified version of it, because every block that you see here would regularly have like 3 to 15 points in it. And we need to go through every one of those. But again, I can describe it in an hour of time, but I will try to do it in a couple of minutes just for the sake of keeping everyone in the loop. So what it is actually a framework how you can switch from what you have right now into modular content with paying attention to the things that should be in place before you are really ready to go into modular. And again, it won't happen overnight. So like today you're doing things the more conventional way, and then out of a sudden tomorrow you are modular. So it is a journey, and this is why we called our masterclass that way. So this adventure will drive you through a set of processes. And here, what we are basically trying to do is actually follow the flow of the content. So what we will start off is the prerequisite stage, where we will define some of the basic things around your organization, around the brand, around the structure, around the people, roles, and responsibilities, and everything that we need to understand in order to work with you effectively. Then the second column here is like two things happening at the same time. On one hand, we're going to be working together with your guys on the master template preparation, because this would be a crucial piece of the following changes, because most of the time it is easier to start with something rather than just off a clean slate. And this is where we develop the things that we call templates, because they are basically a digitalization of your brand identity, like the colors, the fonts, the placement of basic elements like logos, images, and things like that. With having those templates in our platform, the second thing, we will connect that platform to the digital asset management system that you have right now. And basically, this will allow you to use certain files that you already have and that are accessible to you in order to create content with the use of the templates that you get out of us. So once those three things are aligned and in place, you are basically ready to kickstart the whole process from the global team first. So in order for the content to be readily accessible and acceptable on the local level, global team needs to transform as well. And here we have like a basic rule of what is created with the use of our platform can be reused, localized, and adapted with the use of our platform. So this is why, again, the global team needs to be involved in the process from the day one. So with having the connection to the digital asset management and the template, you would be basically having the initial layout for your content type. And again, those could be different types that we currently support, like details, landing pages, emails, like both web triggered and broadcast regardless. So once your global team creates the global content, of course, they need to approve that so it is ready to be shipped to the target audience. And once columns 4 and 5 are covered on the global side, this is where the most of the benefits related to the modular approach could happen on the local level as well. And according to this chart, you see that there are two options that are available to the local guides. So first of all, which is more of the advisable way, is going to the box number 7, which is transcreate the global content. And again, whatever has been developed in our platform on the global level, as a local representative, you can go ahead, find that. You can always make a copy out of it, making the connection between the parent and the child. And of course, it feeds the data stream of its own. So then you have the copy that you can start working on a local level. And this is where you would do most of the updates needed to the global content. So for example, some slides are not working for you, or let's say you don't need the whole chapter in it. And then you can leave only the stuff that works for you, get it translated, probably change some images, videos, audio files that are fetched directly from your digital asset management system, because again, you have access to it through our platform. And this is where you create a local copy. If for whatever reason you feel that the global content doesn't work for you and you cannot reuse whatever has been provided by the global team, you still have the option and the block number 6, which is create the content locally. And this is the second opportunity for you to use the same master template that was prepared for the global team as well. And this way your content would be consistent, would be unified in terms of design, layouts, look and feel overall. And again, you can use your digital asset management system in order to fetch your local information into that very same template, making it the local content from the day one. So regardless of the way that you prefer or that works for your particular case, you still would approve that content on a local level. And this is when you are ready to ship that content to the target audience. So this is where we come to the question of the content deployment and tracking, and of course, the personalization. Here in the bottom, you see the block number 11, which is not relatively just there as a stage of the process. It's not a thing that you set up once and forget about it, because every event, every action that you perform throughout the whole diagram and the whole process would generate different sorts of data. So for example, if we're talking about the tracking of the local reuse, with the help of that making a copy functionality, this will feed the data about like what content items are the most popular, what countries are actually reusing that, to what extent they are reusing them. For example, they are using just 2 slides out of 10, or they are just localizing the whole presentation of the whole landing page or the whole website. Pretty much depends. And in terms of deployment and tracking, this will also feed the data sources respective to the performance. So for example, you've created something, you've spent X amount of time for developing that, you've spent Y amount of time for improving that, and once you ship it, you see that it clearly doesn't work, and probably you need to address that. So again, all of the columns, like the vertical ones that you see here, they would feed the data streams. And of course, everything is sort of about the data, because if you want to make any decision, it's better to be data driven. So again, this is how we can contribute to the whole story here.
Awesome, thanks. If I may ask like some additional question to this.
For sure.
So in the prerequisites, and I think this is like a very important thing just to start, because this is the foundation of the approach. So we have here claims and message library. Can you relate to that? Like why this is so important? What role do those claims would play in the long run in the modular content project?
Yeah, so that partially connects with everything, starting from the component asset level, being images, video, audio, the searchability and the traceability of assets like that, to again content and the deployment and tracking. So whether you are delivering the right content to the right audience, and even to the extent of planning your content ahead of time. So there is a saying like teaching new tricks to an old dog. So things ain't gonna be the same way here. And with the modular approach in general, you would be changing the mind shift first. So you won't be creating, let's say, an e-detailer for the sake of just creating the e-detailer, so you have something in your hands to go to the HCPs with. Actually, you would be thinking about things like whom you are talking to. And again, it pretty much relates to what Pavel has mentioned in his session. And also what you're going to say to those people. So this will pretty much define the key messages and the claims. And of course, you want to connect the resulting content piece to all of that. So later, when you have a similar case, you don't need to dig in some sort of the folder and try to understand everything on your own. You just want to enter a couple of keywords and find the relevant content that you can reuse, or let's say you can adapt to the upcoming event or some sort of the reuse and repurposing within other regions that haven't tried that yet, and things like that. So again, not just connecting content to claims and key messages. It is way broadest subject and broader topic that connects us to searchability, trace, visibility on different levels, data streams, and things like that. But of course, in order to get there, you just need to resolve some of the basic things first, like how many claims do we have for the particular brand that we are working on.
All right. Yeah. And I'm happy that you mentioned that, again, stressing the point that standardization is a way to get the content better discovered, better identified, and then as a result, better reused. So let's move on. And here, actually, it's a kind of a summary of and adding like a visual effects to what Dennis has been presenting. So we were talking a lot about master templates, about modules, about how we combine them together, and why this is actually a mind shift. So for sure, there is like a change in how we do content. Now we don't think email 1, email 5. We think messages, we think claims, and we also think consequently modules. But also we think templates and the variability within the template, so that the creative never suffers. but still you get the different visualizations of your future content, but yet you stay within the framework that would make your brand recognizable in the inbox, in the browser, somewhere as a banner on Medscape, anywhere. And as the doctor or a healthcare professional sees that, he's like, oh, this is V7, for example, or this is that company. I've seen it somewhere. And so that type of standardization and variability is held within the template. And you see here the variety of different elements without which the template would not exist. For example, the variety of headers that you can just swap and still add some special look and feel to your email. Same with the footer. You swap one footer, give it a nice look and feel, but also it's a matter to localize the content, because that element can bear some special legal information or special GDPR compliance rules. And by reusing the element that's specific to your region or to your brand, it's easy to adjust the email just on the fly and make sure that it will still look very, very professional. And from the modules, like the content body itself, the different combinations of the key message that you want to stream, for example, about efficacy, about safety, dosing, anything, and how you combine them together will help you identify not just how your email performs in general, but also which messages specifically you shared within this or that email, and with advanced data, if those messages were seen. So if we look in a kind of I call it like an architecture mostly, to identify between what's needed to make this happen. So we have the final asset here, which is like our end goal to assemble a promotional or non-promotional piece that would have all of the components of a regular presentation, email, or website, and be mobile friendly, perform well across the browsers, and deliver a certain set of messages. So the functionality, standardized layout and look and feel would lie here to the left part of the screen. And this is like a template, and what it consists of, a kind of a design system that would use the available space on the screen to the maximum effect, leveraging all of the UI, UX best practices, and also being developed in a mobile friendly way, like mobile first approach, for example. Also the blocks, which are kind of presets for the layouts for specific modules or components or any type of content that you want to put inside, just because they're gonna combine the different components together and present them in a user-friendly environment. And the components themselves, so those are like the little atoms that are combined together to add some functionality to the final piece. So this is like what brings the standard on a backhand level, I would say, what comes pre-prepared while you're starting going modular. And then here to the right side of the screen come the modules themselves. Those are those meaningful, referenced, and approvable chunks of content that you inject in the template and then form the final asset. So I would say this part to the left is content less. This is something that helps you organize different things from smaller elements like components into larger blocks and into bigger templates. And the meaning is in the modules. which are channel agnostic by the nature. They are stored, tagged, and have their own life cycle in your digital asset management tool. And the final look and feel, like those, like how they are dressed, uh, how they are presented in the final assets, they get that in the templates. So that's what makes them so reusable within and across of the different channels. So
Yeah,
those
and a
is
small addition from my end here, sorry, Oksana,
Mhm.
is that with this visualization, what we are trying to say is that a huge mindset shift that happens with modular is actually separating the form from the meaning. So the form here represented as a template block and component is purely like channel specific, because again, if we are talking about the presentations, the aspect ratio is this. If we are talking about the limitations within email, they are already known. If we are talking about the web content, the sky is the limit, and basically you can do pretty much everything there. However, if let's say over time you come up with the newer design, a better block, which, for example, has a CTA button a little bit higher, so it hopefully will bring more conversion and more data to you. You don't need to, let's say, reapprove all the modules because they are separated at this stage, and you just simply need to add another block to the template and start using the new one with a higher performance. However, the modules, from the meaning standpoint, they are the same, and you can still fetch the old approved modules into the new block, because again, the dependency is not broken. You can use any block with any module, or you can use a single module with dozens of blocks that are available to you across multiple channels. So
yeah, yeah,
back
and
to you,
this is
Oksana.
how you track how your message performs apart from the look and feel, and this is how you do A/B testing well to see which type of visual for the module will work better for this or that audience.
And this is sort of what brings you to the next level, which is personalization through A/B
Exactly.
testing and exactly understanding what works.
Yeah, so that was a perfect segue to the data and the personalization that it brings. So Dennis, just go ahead.
Yeah, so we've touched the subject of metadata, like tagging, tags in general, like naming conventions, standardization of all those things a couple of times throughout the masterclass today. But again, the main benefits to you as a user and why it is important is actually it helps you find the stuff in the quick and efficient way. So again, you can pretty much envision any system that you have right now and ask yourself a question whether you can find stuff that you know of in a couple of minutes. Because sometimes, and mostly, it takes you half of the day in order to dig through everything that you have listed there in order to find something that you are interested in. And this drives us to the subject of lower reuse rates, because in order to reuse something, you first need to find that, and that's an issue of itself. So again, tagging and metadata can help you out with that a lot. And here we are talking about not just like the manual tagging that you do during the, let's say, upload of the files into your centralized digital asset management system, but also the automated base, because there are some available to you right now. The second thing here is also a consistent way to describe digital assets. So you can think of any, let's say, platform or any marketplace that you personally use. So, for example, whenever you are looking for a video somewhere on Netflix, they all have a set structure. This is where the description goes, this is where the headline goes, this is where you have the title image, and this is where you have a couple of screenshots. And there's no other way to add something to the marketplace, but only fill everything according to the standard that you have. Is it the same for all the countries within your organization, or for all types of files within your organization? Because again, oftentimes when we start talking about modular with our customers, they kind of believe that they have everything in place. And by the time we get to a certain country, we run into things like guys, and where do you store your files? And like you have a common like storage solution, and there you have just 10 files because someone is storing something elsewhere, and on the like higher levels, managers are oftentimes not aware of that. So that's an issue because no visibility, no traceability, and you can fix that. So in terms of tagging and metadata as well, so it allows you to quickly identify digital assets that meet particular search criteria. And it perfectly works with the thing that we call the dynamic template. So for example, when you have a particular header and a particular text for that header or footer section, depending on the country. So all of that can be added into the template itself. So the next time you select the respective country, you don't need to dig through, let's say, 15 blocks available. You would just have the blocks that are tailored specifically for this country, and it is easier for you to select something. So this, again, is kind of a preparatory step for the next level, which is the automated suggestion and recommendation mechanisms. However, even if it's just a single field of metadata, it actually works today. And the remaining thing that you see here on the slide is also the visibility of how assets actually perform and enrich the metadata. Again, every time you select the country somewhere, every time you select a language, the therapy area, let's say, a particular key message related to an asset or a module or the full assembly, it feeds the data stream, and it kind of references to the overall framework that we discussed a little bit previously. But again, it all works in conjunction. You don't need to have everything in place like at once, but you can start with certain things, and tagging is definitely one of them. Yeah, so here, this is just another visualization of how things meet each other. And again, you can kind of remind it from Pavel's presentation today as well. But again, it's not enough to, let's say, make a standard somewhere on a certain high level, like a campaign, a program, or overall like performance. Oftentimes you need to get way deeper than that, like to an individual image. Was it used somewhere in the module? Were those modules used within an email? Were those email performing the way that you expected them? So it all requires a lot of tagging, linkages, dependencies, relations to be in place in order to get that like first visible and valuable data in order to make those data-driven decisions that we talk about. And again, you don't have to cover everything at once. You can pick a level that works for you best, and you can start off with that level, be it the component asset level, like images, video, and audio files that you have. Probably it is more comfortable to you to start with the marketing tagging, which is like the segmentation, the audience, the place within the your sales funnel, things like that. And again, that could be a direction, but eventually all those roads will lead you to a single place, which is the overall like coordination of tagging across different systems and multiple systems at once. Because again, today data does not reside somewhere in a single place, because whenever you are publishing something somewhere, you need to feed the information to another system, and you need to make sure that the format that you are passing it there is compatible, and that you would be able to access that data and process it at a later stage. So again, everything comes together in a really tight fashion, and this is the main idea behind this slide. So just pick a direction and start working that way. This is kind of the encouragement from me here, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And what would be your recommendation? What would be the first thing to start with the data and taxonomy project?
I would probably suggest starting like bottom to top, because usually it is more convenient and easier for the customers. Because let's say if you think of the smaller things like component assets, and those are again different files like images, videos, and audios, you already have them, and you probably already have a system for that. You don't need to invest heavily into something. You just need to make the audit and see whether things are stored the way they are supposed to. And if they are not, then it's probably a question of at least governance, like whether everyone is aware with the way how things should be stored. Or, for example, if you don't have a proper description for that, this is what you need to work with, because in order for someone to be able to do something the way that you expect them, they at least need a way of like getting those requirements and understanding those requirements. In here, I would say just a written description doesn't work. So your system has to be somewhat restrictive on the people in terms of if I'm trying to upload something somewhere, the system will should prompt me to do it in a certain way. And for me as a user, basically there should be no other way of doing it just right, because if I do it wrong, it will snowball to bigger problems that you probably already know of as of today. Like things are labeled the wrong way, I can find that. Things are stored somewhere else because there it was easier for users to upload it there. Something is done in the different way between different countries, regions, levels, departments, divisions, whatever. And again, this kind of brings you to the subject of the process unification, because if you want to track something on a global level, the approach should be global as well. So again, with this like component asset, again, you already have assets access to that, sorry, and you can work with that. And actually, by making more order out of what you already have on the component asset level, just a simple example of like adding the expiration dates to that, so you don't need to manually track everything moving forward. And you would know definitely that people are using just the stuff that is relevant and not something dating back to like 8 years ago. This way, it's a small change, but again, it will have a huge impact. And by organizing the component assets, you kind of prepare the ground for the next level, where you can start thinking of combining those assets into modules and storing them as the separate entities, approving them as the separate entities. Because again, if you have a mess with the component assets, what you're gonna build your modules out of? Because yeah, you may want to build them, but like, do you have all the architecture, all the tech stack, and what is more important, the process in place to govern the components for those modules, like the building blocks?
Yeah. And speaking about like tech and um, how this can be actually implemented, where do you see the value of AI in like metadata projects?
So there's definitely a place, and again, pretty much depends on the level that you want to apply it to. But again, since we started talking about, let's say, component assets, let's probably continue with them. So for example, if we take just a simple image, and usually right now when you upload an image to the centralized DAM solution, what you do is tag it manually. And oftentimes those tags, they pretty much relate to things like, let's say, a product, a country, probably a language, something like a campaign that you are having this file for, probably a therapy area for the brand, or some more generic things. However, does this thing help you actually understand what is there in the image? Unlikely, because oftentimes when working with the content, being just a regular human being, what you remember about the content is what it actually looked like. So for example, if you are trying to find a particular image of a particular person wearing a particular clothes, because you remember them doing so when you prepared this campaign, let's say half a year ago. This is all that you remember about the image. Can you find that image by the like a man in a green sweater or something like that? Probably not. And this is where the AI can step in, because the technology is there that allows you actually recognizing the people, the things within the images, and add those tags to what you have provided manually. So the next time you would be searching with something like a man in a green sweater, you would actually find the image, and based on the image and its metadata, like a campaign or therapy area or product, you can dig even for more.
Yeah. So again, better ways to discover the content. And so we are almost at time for our session, and we have some minutes just to wrap up. And I would say provide you some of the highlights of what will actually lead you along those 11 steps of the journey that Dennis mentioned. So first would be like those are not arranged in the order of importance. They're all equally important. So I'll just start like with the content management system and with the digital asset management system. That's where is the groundwork to be done. This is the foundation of technology of assets organization, and then content findability and the reuse. So creating standards and rules. So don't look at that as a limitation. Look at that as a way to enhance and then really cash in on all of the automation that you can bring after you standardize. Engaging the users, which deals a lot with the change management, just because even if that's driven from the top, or we have to show the value and how the life of every person will be enhanced after implementing the new tech. Updating on a regular basis. Review how your content performs and take action based on that. And the tech that is implemented will help you do that not within months or weeks. It will help you do that in a matter of days, even if not hours. And there is some investment needed, and this is time. The time to take care to create the foundation, the time to create the claims, the time to create templates, to organize the business rules. So everything to make the journey then smooth and controlled. So with that, we have still some of the several minutes for questions. And Dennis, if you can read out any of the chat, because I don't see that as I'm sharing the screen, I think we could take one.
Yeah, I guess those questions are visible only to Dario because I cannot see them as well. So Dario, the question to you, do we have any?
So no questions. Obviously, you did a tremendous presentation, and everything is pretty much clear.
All right, awesome. Thank you everyone then for chiming in into the session, and have a great day ahead.
Thank you for your time, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye everyone.